All right, burgeoning viewers, one quick note for you. A subscriber a day in October. If we hit 31 subscribers in 31 days, one lucky subscriber will walk away with the entire Modern Horizons art card series. Additionally, a comment a day. Any subscriber that leaves a comment in every video posted by MTG Burgeoning during the month of October will become eligible for the November Pack Wars. On November 1st, a list of all subscribers that left a comment on every MTG Burgeoning video during the month of October will be compiled, and from this list, one subscriber will be randomly chosen to participate in the November Pack Wars. So hope for peace, but prepare for war. Burgeonites, you have returned to the Friday Kitchen Table series. I can't believe it either, folks. We are on deck number 14 of this series. We just plowed right through our monocolor decks, and then we plowed right through the allied color decks, and now we are nearing the end of our enemy colored decks. Unreal, where has the time gone? In today's Kitchen Table deck tech, number 14 of our series, we are going to take a look at Simic Flashback. Simic Flashback deck way back in the day. This was the scourge of, I can't remember if it was even called standard back then. I think it was called extended maybe? Type 2? I don't even remember, it was so long ago. But Simic Flashback was quite a deck back then. There have been some newer cards added to the overall skeletal functional capability of this deck, but the theme is still there. We discard cards from our hand to get into our graveyard, and then we flash them back at a reduced cost. So let's begin with the mana base. We're in Simic, so you know we're going to have some islands. And there they are, 8 islands. The mana base will not be exciting in today's deck. 8 islands, 8 forests, and then 1 play set of Hinterland Harbor. It's our Simic Checkland. That's it. No thrills, no seeking any additional lands. Those are 20 lands, 16 basics, and 4 check. Alright, so let's talk about how we're going to get some cards into our hand and how we're going to get those cards into the graveyard. Let's begin with Careful Study. Going all the way back to Odyssey for this one, baby. So that's close to 20 years ago. And Odyssey simply says 1 blue, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. So we get cards from our library, we get some of our flashback cards into our graveyard. 1 playset of Careful Study. Next up we have Deep Analysis for 3 and a blue, and trust me folks, we do not want to cast this spell for 3 and a blue because its flashback cost of 1 and a blue and pay 3 life allows us to draw 2 cards. Technically it says target player draws 2 cards, but for the majority of gameplay, for all intents and purposes, we will be the ones reaping that benefit. 1 playset of Deep Analysis. Next up for our card draw and into the graveyard, we have a spell called Breakthrough. It's a sorcery for X and a blue. We draw 4 cards, then choose X cards in our hand and discard the rest. So for example, if we pay X as 1, and then for 1 and a blue, we're drawing 4 cards and we're keeping 1 card in our hand. Okay, so we can definitely manipulate our cards in our hand, as well as the cards that are going to the graveyard, in order to fill that with some choice flashback spells. 2 copies of Breakthrough. That is 10 spells, 20 lands. We're halfway through the deck. All right, before we move on to our creatures, let's take a look at a play set of a removal spell that is called Reality Shift. From Fate Reforged, it's 1 and a blue as an instant, and we exile target creature. Its controller manifests the top card of their library, And for anyone who's unfamiliar with what Manifest is, that target player puts the top card of their library onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. If it's a creature card, it can be turned face up anytime for its mana cost. So in blue-green, this is a great way to get rid of a troublesome or problematic creature. 4 copies of Reality Shift. All right, and that brings us to our next set of creatures, and these are the creatures that are going to act as additional discard outlets. And we're going to start with the one and the only, and we're back to the Odyssey block once more, Wild Mongrel. For 1 and a green, we're discarding a card from our hand, of course, and the Wild Mongrel is going to get +1/+1 and becomes the color of our choice until end of turn. And it's already a 2/2. And we pay nothing, we just discard a card right to our library. I mean, right to our graveyard, not to our library. We're not playing with Library of Laying here, folks. No Library of Layings in this deck. Wild Mongrel, 4 copies. A newer, more recent discard creature is the Noose Constrictor for 1 and a green. Again, it's a 2/2. This one has reach, but it has nearly the same abilities as the Wild Mongrel. Discard a card, Noose Constrictor gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Doesn't become the color of choice until end of turn, but that's not really going to matter. It's just another way in which for us to discard our cards. 4 copies of Noose Constrictor. That's Eldritch Moon, folks. Eldritch Moon. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things that we want to discard. And if we're going to discard anything, why not reap the abilities with a little madness effect? How about a Basking Root Walla? It costs 1 green to cast as a 1/1, but its madness cost is 0. So if we discard this card, we discard it into exile for its madness cost, which is 0. And when we do, we cast it for its madness cost and put it, instead of putting it into we put it into our graveyard. So with a Noose Constrictor or a Wild Mongrel, or even a Careful Study or a Breakthrough, we discard Basking Root Walla right into play. And once each turn, we can tap 1 and a green to give Basking Root Walla +2/+2. 4 copies. Staying on the madness theme, we have Arrogant Worm. Its CMC is 3 and 2 green for a 4/4 trampler, but boy oh boy does it feel good as a 2 and a green. Discard this to one of our discard outlets, tap 2 and a green, and cast a 4/4 Trampling Worm. 4 copies of Arrogant Worm. All right, so we're down to our last 10 cards, and now we're getting into the biggins, folks. We are getting into the biggins. How about straight from the graveyard with its flashback ability of 3 and a green, we have Roar of the Worm. CMC for the sorcery is 6 and a green to create a 6/6 green worm creature token, but casting it from the graveyard for 3 and a green, ooh, that feels so much nicer. 4 copies of Roar of the Worm. Speaking of casting from the graveyard, we have a similar mechanic to Flashback that was introduced to us in Amonkhet, and that comes in the form of Embalm. And here we have an Honored Hydra. CMC of 5 and a green for a 6/6 Trampler. However, if it's in our graveyard, we can tap 3 and a green and exile this from our graveyard, and then we create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie snake Hydra with no mana cost. We only embalm as a sorcery, of course, but that's usually what we have to do with Roar of the Worm anyways. So 3 and a green, we get a 6/6 Trampler. So 3 and a green with the Honored Hydra, 3 and a green with Roar of the Worm to get some 6/6 creatures into play. And that's 58, and the last 2 cards to add to this deck to provide some additional evasion for our creatures to swarm in for victory, we have Wonder. 3 in a blue 2/2 flyer. As long as there's a card in our graveyard, as long as Wonder is in our graveyard and we control an island, creatures we control have flying. We've got the discount. We have the discard outlets to get Wonder into our graveyard, and we have 8 islands in the deck. So it should not be overly burdensome to make all of our creatures fly. Folks, that is the Simic Flashback deck. That is deck number 14 of this kitchen table series. Let's give this deck a quick spin with a quick play testing. All right, so we're going to give this Simic Flashback deck a quick run. Make sure that we can demonstrate its effectiveness. Getting some nice spells in the graveyard, some cards in our hand. Let's see how we can do. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there is our 7. There's our opening hand. Let's hope it's a good one. We've only got the 20 lands, which should be enough. Our spells aren't very expensive. There's going to be our turn counter. All right, there's a good check land. Give us a basic. Come on, give us that basic. Oh, no, don't flood us. Oh. And there it is, folks. There's the trouble of playing with the check lands. All right, you know what? Let's keep it. Let's see what happens. We're going to do it. All right, it's not terrible. All right, come on. Basic. First card. Draw. Breakthrough. All right, so Hinterland Harbor into play tapped. And here comes turn number 2. We draw. There's our island. And now I think we're going to put our Wild Mongrel into play. So we got our discard outlet in play. Okay, go like that. Going to turn number 3. We're drawing our card. There we go. Play our Hinterland Harbor. All right, so we're close to being able to cast anything, but why don't we do, let's say we swing with our Mongrel, and then we'll say before combat damage, we'll discard these 3 cards, 2 Honored Hydras and a Roar of the Worm. They go right into the graveyard. Opponent takes 5. Sounds great. All right, we untap. We move to turn 4. We draw a Reality Shift. That looks very good. We play our mountain. We play a mountain. Yeah, okay. We play our forest. And boy, we got some good options here. What I think we're going to do is let's tap 4 and let's cast let's flashback our Roar of the Worm. We'll get our nice little 6/6 worm creature token into play. And there he is, a 6/6 on turn 4. Not too shabby at all. Then we can say we'll attack with our Wild Mongrel again. And then we'll discard our Deep Analysis to give it +1/+1, setting a total of 8 so far at our opponent. We untap. We move to turn 5. We draw a Basking Root Walla. So now is the time for us to cast our Breakthrough. We're going to tap for 4. We're going to say X is 3. So we're going to draw our 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. So we're going to keep 3 cards in our hand. So we're going to keep the Forest, we're going to keep the Careful Study, and we're going to keep the Reality Shift. So we're going to discard a Basking Root Walla, which will go right into play for 0. We'll discard an Honored Hydra, and unfortunately we'll discard an Arrogant Worm. Well, actually, maybe we should keep that. You know what? Let's... All right, let's discard the Forest, just to see what might happen. All right, so we have our creatures. We're doing pretty well. All right, we untap. We move to turn 6. Not sure if we're closing this game out because we could have attacked for, a good 8 points of damage. We draw. We get our island. Play an island. Let's tap this island. Let's cast Careful Study. We'll draw 1. Deep Analysis. We'll draw 2. Another Careful Study. We got to discard a couple. So we're going to discard our Deep Analysis. We'll discard our Arrogant Worm. But we'll tap 3 in order to put it right onto the battlefield as a 4/4 Trampler. And that's pretty much how that game pretty much how game number 1 went. One more. All right, so we're going to give the Simic Flashback, one more test run. Now just think about this, folks. A little less than 20 years ago, minus the embalm mechanic and all the cards that didn't exist at that time, this was the deck. Simic Flashback. So think about what this deck comprises in a one-on-one environment compared to what we're seeing now in our current metagames or in our current constructed plays. You tell me about quote-unquote power creep. I mean, it's got to happen, but... So this isn't going to be one of those decks that you're going to bowl your opponents over with, but it's fun. So we're going to roll with it. All right, this is a good starting hand. We're going to keep this baby. All right, here we go. Let's see what we're going to do here. Turn one, we draw Hinterland Harbor. Perfect. Play that. And you know what? Let's careful study right away. We'll draw two cards. We're going to discard an island and a Basking Root Walla, which we'll just play right like that. So you got three Hinterland Harbors in our hand, a Noose Conscriptor. Oh, this is going to work out. All right, here we go. Turn two, draw another one. Ah, beautiful. Tap two, cast a Noose Conscriptor, discard, put the Basking Root Walla right into play. Shoot. We untap. We draw another Wild Mongrel. Play that for 3. And boy, oh boy, we're set up pretty well. We can attack. We can discard. We got Arrogant Worms that we can put right into play for a 4/4 Trampler. Boy, this is looking like a pretty good hand, folks. Just for the purposes of clarity, turn 4 gives us more gas with a careful study. Wow, that worked out well. Folks, Simic Flashback. Put this deck together. It's fun, it's a different kind of build, and it is very cost effective. This is MTG Burgeoning. This is the Friday Kitchen Table Series. This is deck tech number 14. Click on any of the links below to take you to any of the 13 previous Kitchen Table Series deck techs. MTG Burgeoning, we are out. Want to become a Pack Wars combatant? 4 easy steps. Step number 1. Click on the link below in the description or go to www.buymeacoffee.com/MTGBurgeoning. Step number 2. Select either membership or support. Membership will enroll you into Pack Wars for $5 each month. Support will cost $5 for 1 month. Step number 3, complete payment information. The name you use will appear on the site. Use your real name, use your YouTube handle, or use no name at all and be anonymous. Be sure to include your email address in the information. Step number 4, most importantly, prepare for war.